Hi, this is Homay from Spitfire Audio with a contextual video on our Hauschka Composer Toolkit library. And I've put a piece together for you using the Symphonic strings library and then also the flute from the Symphonic Woodwind library. I have to say I'm a big fan of this one. The more I played with it, the more I found how versatile this library is. And piano is a go-to instrument for me, sometimes for sketching, and I also love to include it wherever appropriate. And to actually have an instrument that kind of extends on that soundscape with the prepared section and also the warp patches is really awesome. And for this piece, I've imagined to write a supportive cue to a scene that starts off more on the suspense end and works its way to a relief towards the end. So it starts slowly to resolve halfway through. Let's have a listen first. I feel like I got a lot out of this library with the different elements it offers. So, for example, as listed here with the pads and the rhythmic elements, but then also the different textural sounds that really helped me putting the strings that I have there into a different and bigger space, which is more suited for the bigger screen. And then we also have a piano patch in there, which I will get to later on. To give you a quick overview of the library itself, it's in Contact, and you can find a few patches in our Evo grid, like this one over here, as well as the artist presets that we have. And in the advanced folder, you have then individual patches, which come in a different GUI. The ADSR comes in really handy for these sounds, as do the other functions, like for example the wobble, which you can turn up in the bar over here, and then you can adjust the fluctuation of each wobble in the respective window over here. And on the left-hand side, you then also have 6 different signal paths. And I want to just demonstrate you jumping into the first sound I've used here. So that's a combination of 3 and 6. Let's just listen to 6. So it's really worth checking this out so you can find different tones of the sound source and nicely mix them up to customize it to your liking. On the right hand side, you have the yoke. That means you can assign on the XY axis different functions to it. I've got dynamics, for example, here. Makes it much easier for the fade-ins and outs. Then going on to the next sound called Damped Piano Swarm, which gives me a bit of that rhythmical element. But equally, if you wanted to play multiple notes, it gives you a really nice swarm tone. Down here, I'm using a natural piano warp. It's got a really modulated, bright piano sound that comes through. And again, playing with the signal path makes for some really nice combinations. And then using the same patch, I played in a note and then reversed it, which is down here. And the way to do that is very simple. You just play in a note. The higher octave, and then go to bounce and join, bounce in place. That will say, do you want to create a new audio track with that sound in place? So you hit OK. Make sure that you drag out the region a little bit so that you don't cut off the reverb tail. Once you've done that, you can go into, double click here, go to File, Functions, and then you have a reverse option over here. I just repeated the reverse sound a few times because I wanted to have this repeating crescendo happening over there. It kind of gives it a bit of movement throughout, whilst I have other sounds already doing a slow crescendo coming in. The next sound I have is mallet swells. The cool thing is having used a piano to modulate the sounds means that you get the really nice low tones of that instrument. So I'm using these sounds for a more bassier section. Over here I'm using an artist presets, which is in our Evo grid, and that already comes as such a nice pad. I've kind of just used it in the way it was programmed. Really adding that space to it. Just going to the string section quickly. I mostly have suspending flautando longs playing and tremolos, slow moving melody, and then later on the solo flute joins with the melody. Let's listen back to that section. So far, I think it sounds fairly cinematic, and the difference of space the Hauschka library adds to the strings is massive. And then I think you could already hear the T-Light metal pad. And I keep finding these patches that create this instant depth. With the Damped Piano Swarm sound, I'm trying to play a little bit to its strength, trying to alternate between the triplets, which is playing already. And then actually myself playing in eighth notes to kind of alternate between those rhythmic lines. To which I then also added an EQ that I automated. So you have a bit of a filter on there, cutting out the higher frequencies and then letting them through whilst it's playing back. So you can do that if you go onto the channel and then select Latch over here, then hit play and move this simultaneously whilst it's playing back. Once you're done, make sure to just put it back to read, and then you will have automated that section. So you can see it's kind of slowly opening up. And in the last part, I'm using the Natural Piano Pure patch, which, getting back to what I was saying at the beginning, I have the piano instrument to play with, but not in its natural form, but more to kind of really play with the different signal paths here and really, make it your own sound. So I've added the modular effects and a bit of distortion, as well as having bounced this one out again, like I was demonstrating earlier, and put this one in reverse. So it came up with this really nice effect, I think. I was playing in a similar line, just not in the same rhythm, because I wanted to have a bit of a counter action to it, following the chords, and only added another damned piano swarm. So I've really enjoyed layering it with these other pad sounds as well to put it into this greater space. And if I go back to the orchestral section, I've sort of continued with a different chord. I think it was like a G major and then a E flat major 7th chords, followed by a G minor over a D, going back to the E flat major, I believe. And also added some spiccatos in there just to create a little bit of momentum. And then in the mix window, all I've used is the Lexicon reverb unit and an echo from Logic on one of the tracks, and that's it. So let's listen back to the whole thing again. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was somewhat helpful. If you haven't subscribed yet, you can do that and hit like if you want to see more videos. And also if you have any questions, just comment below. That's it from me. See you next time.